In a world where everything becomes absurd and chaotic, only those who do not yield are able to endure. When everyone loses their mind, there comes a moment when you can see the truth behind the masks. This video is based on Nietzsche's philosophy and will be of interest to those who are ready to understand what it means to stay true to oneself despite the external chaos. Well then, let's begin. You stand at the crossroads of your existence, waiting. Waiting for fairness, for justice, for some cosmic force to intervene and set right the wrongs you have suffered. But the truth, the brutal, unforgiving truth, is this: justice is a myth for those who fear the weight of responsibility. The world does not reward virtue, nor does it punish vice with divine precision. The universe is indifferent to your suffering, blind to your struggles. It moves forward relentless, crushing those who hesitate beneath its wheels. And yet, you wait. You wait because you are taught to believe in a balance that does not exist. That if you endure, if you suffer nobly, if you play by the rules imposed upon you, justice will come. But tell me, how many have perished under this illusion? How many have gone to their graves whispering prayers for fairness that were never answered? The expectation of justice is the last refuge of the powerless, the final sedative for those too afraid to seize what they desire. Look beyond the veil of morality imposed upon you. Observe those who rule, those who shape history, those whose names are remembered. Do you think they waited for justice? No. They carved their own laws into the fabric of reality. They did not waste their breath on lamentations. They acted. They did not plead for fairness. They conquered. To expect justice is to surrender your fate to the hands of others. It is to give the world permission to dictate what you deserve. The strong do not seek permission. They take. They shape. They impose their will upon an indifferent universe, bending it to their own design. And so, you must make a choice. Will you remain shackled to the childish fantasy that life will one day be fair? Or will you cast off the chains of expectation and forge your own path, no longer waiting, no longer hoping, but creating your own justice with your own hands? Because in the end, there are only two kinds of people: those who wait for justice and those who ensure they never need it. The tyranny of emotion: break free or be ruled. You believe you are free, yet how easily are you provoked? How quickly does a word, a glance, an insult strip away your composure and drag you into the mud of reaction? If a stranger's opinion has the power to shatter your peace, are you truly your own master? Or are you merely a puppet, your strings pulled by anyone who knows how to manipulate your fragile pride? To react impulsively is to be enslaved. It is to live at the mercy of external forces, tossed about like a leaf in a storm. He insulted you, so you rage. They disrespected you, so you fume. The world disappoints you, so you despair. And in every moment of reaction, you give away your power, like a fool handing over his sword before battle. But what if you refused? What if you severed the strings that make you dance? What if nothing, no word, no slight, no act of malice, had the power to reach you? Imagine a mind so impenetrable, a spirit so untouchable, that no insult could provoke it, no betrayal could shake it, no cruelty could wound it. That is true power. That is the mind of one who has risen above the herd. You must realize, every time you react, you surrender. You let others dictate your state of being. But what if, instead, you dictated theirs? What if you mastered the art of stillness while the world raged around you? To stand unshaken in the face of insult, to watch provocation fall against you like waves breaking upon a rock. That is the mark of one who has ascended beyond the petty games of the weak. Control your reaction, and you control the game. You dictate the terms of engagement. The one who does not react cannot be controlled. The one who remains unmoved forces the world to adapt to him, not the other way around. So take back your power. Let no one command your emotions. Become the master of your own mind, or spend your life as a marionette, dancing to the whims of others. Pain is fire, let it forge you. Pain comes for you like an executioner, striking without warning, tearing through your illusions of comfort. It does not ask for permission. It does not care for your protests. It breaks, it wounds, it humiliates. And in that moment, you have a choice, one that will define you forever. Will you let pain consume you, reduce you to ashes? Or will you take it in your hands, shape it, command it, and make it your weapon? Weak men curse their suffering. They wallow in self-pity, convincing themselves that their wounds justify their failure. They cry out against the unfairness of it all, as if the universe could be swayed by their lamentations. And so they shrink, they decay, they become nothing. But the strong are different. They do not flee from pain, they embrace it. They look their suffering in the eye and say, "You will not break me. You will become my strength." Do you not see? Everything that has ever hurt you, everything that has burned you, everything that has sought to destroy you, it is fuel. The fire that once threatened to consume you can be turned into the very force that propels you forward. Anger, betrayal, loss, humiliation, these are not curses. They are raw energy, waiting to be harnessed. The question is not whether you will suffer. Suffering is inevitable. The question is what you will do with it. Let the pain sharpen you. Let it strip away your weakness. Let it remind you that you are alive, that you are still standing, that nothing has crushed you yet. When the world wounds you, do not sink into despair. Smile, because now you have more fuel, more reason to rise, more strength to wield. The one who learns to transform pain into power becomes unstoppable because he no longer fears suffering. He welcomes it as a blacksmith welcomes fire, knowing that it will forge him into something unbreakable. You have been burned. Good. Now rise from the flames, stronger than before, or let them consume you. The choice is yours. Laugh at the abyss, or be devoured by it. The world is absurd. It always has been. The weak demand logic where none exists, meaning in a meaningless dance of power and chaos. They seek patterns in the storm, justice in a world that does not know the word. And when the chaos laughs at them, when life strips them of their illusions, one by one, they collapse under the weight of their own expectations. They cry, they curse, they tremble in despair. But the wise, the untouchable, the ones who stand above the madness, they laugh. Laughter is the last act of defiance. It is the declaration that you are no longer a victim, that the storm may rage, but it will not take you with it. When you laugh at the chaos, you strip it of its power. You render it ridiculous, a mere performance rather than a tragedy. The absurdity of existence does not crush you, it entertains you. And so, while others weep over the ruins of their expectations, you remain untouched, watching, smirking, enjoying the grand spectacle. The fool believes his suffering is unique, his misfortunes tragic. He drowns in self-pity, convinced that life has singled him out for special torment. But life has no interest in him. It is blind, chaotic, indifferent. The wise man understands this and chooses instead to play with the absurdity of it all. He watches as kings fall, as fools rise, as empires crumble under their own weight, and he does not weep, he laughs. He sees the comedy in human ambition, the ridiculousness of man's endless struggle against the inevitable. And what is the alternative? To take it all seriously? To let the absurdity of existence grind you into dust? No. You must laugh. You must develop an irony so sharp that nothing can pierce it, a sarcasm so unshakable that no misfortune can break you. Let the world be chaotic. What of it? You are not here to beg for order. You are here to dance in the madness, to drink from the cup of absurdity without flinching. Because in the end, you have only two choices, to laugh at the abyss or to let it consume you. And those who laugh, truly laugh, with the unshakable confidence of one who has transcended despair, are the ones the abyss can never take. Forge your own morality, or be a slave to another's. You have lived your life according to rules you did not create. Laws imposed upon you before you could even speak. Moral codes dictated by those who feared to think for themselves. They told you what is right, what is wrong, what is noble, what is shameful. And you accepted it. You obeyed. Because that is what you were taught. To submit, to conform, to believe that morality is something given, not something created. But tell me, have these rules made you stronger? Have they made you free? Or have they only caged you in expectations that will never be met? You live under the weight of foreign morality, and you suffer for it. You expect fairness where there is none, loyalty from those who will betray you, recognition for virtues that the world does not reward. And when the world fails to live up to these expectations, you feel cheated. But who is to blame? the world, or your own blind faith in values that were never yours to begin with? Look at those who rule, those who carved their names into history. Do you think they spent their lives following borrowed principles? No, they forged their own. They understood that morality is not absolute. It is a weapon, a tool, a force to be wielded, not obeyed. They did not ask, "Is this right?" They asked, "Does this serve me?" They did not beg for justice. They created their own. If you live by another's rules, you will always be a pawn in another's game. You will be praised when it suits them, condemned when it does not. You will bend to standards designed not to elevate you, but to control you. And when you are no longer useful, they will cast you aside. But if you create your own laws, you answer to no one. You are no longer bound by the fragile morality of the herd, by their fears, their limitations, their need for approval. You rise above them, beyond their judgments, into the rare air of those who dictate, not those who obey. So decide, will you continue to kneel before the morality of others, waiting for a reward that will never come? Or will you rise, shatter their commandments, and carve your own path? The strong do not ask for permission to define right and wrong. They take the hammer and forge it themselves. Do not wrestle with fools. They will drag you into the mud and call it victory. There is a particular kind of man who thrives in the filth of argument. He does not seek truth. He does not seek wisdom. He seeks only to pull you down into his world, where reason is meaningless, where words are weapons wielded without honor, where noise replaces thought. He thrives in confusion, because in clarity he is nothing. He feeds on reaction, because without it, he ceases to exist. And yet, you argue. You descend into the pit, convinced that logic will triumph over ignorance, that reason will shine through the fog of stupidity. You imagine yourself a warrior of truth, cutting through the darkness with the blade of intellect. But your enemy is not here to fight fairly. He does not seek enlightenment. He seeks only to exhaust you, to drown you in his chaos, to force you into a game where the only prize is humiliation. A fool does not need to be right to win. He needs only to keep you engaged, to make you lower yourself to his level. And once you are there, once you have stepped into his arena, he has already won. Because the moment you acknowledge his argument as worthy of response, you validate him. You grant him a power he did not earn. You lend your intellect to his stupidity, and in doing so, you make him stronger. The wise man does not waste his breath. He does not debate the insane, nor does he seek to enlighten the willfully blind. He does not enter battles where victory is meaningless. When faced with a fool, he does not argue, he walks away. Not out of weakness, but out of contempt. Because some battles are not won by fighting. They are won by refusing to fight at all. So let the fool shout. Let him drown in his own noise. Let him mistake your silence for defeat. You lose nothing by ignoring him, but he loses everything when he is denied attention. The strongest mind is not the one that defeats every argument. It is the one that refuses to be pulled into battles unworthy of its strength. Be untouchable. Let them think what they will. How much of your life has been spent as a prisoner of opinion? How many steps have you hesitated to take? How many words have you swallowed? How many dreams have you buried, simply because of what they might think? But who are they? A faceless mass, a collection of fleeting thoughts, voices that will fade into nothingness the moment you cease to feed them. And yet, you allow them to govern you, to dictate the shape of your existence. Why? The opinions of others are chains. Chains you wear willingly, mistaking their weight for necessity. You believe you must be liked, understood, accepted. You believe that to move against the tide of approval is to risk exile. But exile from what? A herd that does not know your name, a crowd that would forget you the moment you cease to amuse them? Do not mistake their attention for meaning. Do not confuse their judgment for truth. You seek their approval, yet they do not even approve of themselves. They change their minds as the wind changes direction, loving what they once hated, despising what they once praised. They are inconsistent, fickle, lost in their own contradictions. And yet, you allow them to be the measure of your worth. You bend, you shrink, you adjust, becoming whatever shape is most pleasing to the collective gaze. But tell me, when has this ever satisfied them? When has appeasement ever granted true freedom? To be untouchable is to walk through fire and remain unburned. It is to be watched, spoken of, criticized, even hated, and to be indifferent. The lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. The eagle does not ask permission before it soars. And yet you, born with the same right to carve your own path, hesitate. Why? Because they might disapprove? Let them. Let them whisper, let them sneer, let them waste their breath shaping an opinion of you that you will never hear, never acknowledge, never care for. The moment you stop fearing their judgment, you are free, truly free. You walk where you choose, speak what you think, live as you desire, not as they expect. And in that moment, the crowd turns its head, confused, envious, unsettled. For they have spent their lives imprisoned by the very thing you have now escaped. And deep down, they do not hate you for it. They wish they could do the same. Reject the right to be offended. It is the chain that makes you a slave to your emotions. To be offended is to admit weakness. It is to hand over your power, your peace, your very soul to someone else. The moment you allow yourself to feel hurt by the words, the actions, or the thoughts of others, you have chained yourself to them. You have surrendered control of your emotions to forces beyond your own will. How long will you allow this madness to rule your life? The offended soul is a slave. He is a prisoner of his own sensitivity, shackled by the smallest slights, held captive by 1,000 imagined wrongs. Every word, every look, every gesture becomes a wound to be nursed, a scar to be counted. And yet, in all this, what do you truly gain? Does the pain make you stronger? Does the anger illuminate the path forward? No. It only keeps you trapped in a cycle of suffering, constantly reliving the wrongs done to you, and in doing so, allowing them to shape your every step. The world does not care for your pride. It does not see your pain. It does not bend to your perception of justice. To be offended is to believe that the universe owes you something, an apology, recognition, fairness. But what if the world owes you nothing? What if the only currency that matters is the one you create for yourself? To live without offense is to step into a world where your peace is yours alone to guard. You are no longer at the mercy of others' actions, no longer a puppet of their words. When you stop taking offense, you stop allowing others to control you. You are free. Free to exist on your own terms, free to move through the chaos of life with the calm certainty that no one, no event, no word can shake you from your center. The powerful do not suffer from offense. They do not sit in the dark, nursing the wounds of slights real and imagined. They walk through the world untouched, their minds focused on their own purpose, their own will. They do not wait for the world to apologize. They do not demand fairness. They create their own meaning, and with it, they stand immune to the bitterness that makes slaves of lesser men. So tear off the chains of offense. Reject the false power it gives you, the illusion that to be hurt somehow makes you stronger. It does not. It only weakens you, for in every moment of indignation, you are surrendering to the very thing you despise. Be above it. Rise above it. Free yourself. Reject the desire to explain yourself. The wise will not understand. The fool will not appreciate. How often do you find yourself drowning in explanations, trapped in the endless cycle of justifying your thoughts, your actions, your very being to others? How often do you lower yourself to the level of the ignorant, only to find that your words fall upon deaf ears, your intentions misunderstood, your truth twisted? And in the end, what is achieved? Nothing. Nothing but the slow erosion of your time, your energy, your spirit. You need not explain yourself to the fool. He will never understand. His mind is a cage of preconceptions, a prison of ignorance that no amount of reasoning can free him from. You could spend a lifetime crafting the most elegant, logical explanation, and he would still dismiss you, still misinterpret, still reduce your greatness to something he can understand, something small, something trivial. His mind cannot reach you, and thus, your words fall like stones into an abyss. And yet, you persist. You explain. You try again. You seek validation from those who have not earned the right to judge you. Why? Do you think that by offering them your truth, you will somehow make them worthy of it? That by speaking your soul aloud, they will recognize the depth of your vision? No, they will not. They cannot. The fool cannot see the stars because his eyes are fixed on the ground. The wise man does not waste his time trying to teach the blind to see. To explain yourself is to diminish your power. It is to lower yourself to the level of those who will never comprehend the richness of your being. It is to beg for recognition from those whose minds are closed to your greatness. You are not here to justify your existence. You are here to live it, to carve your own path through the world, regardless of who sees or who approves. Do not waste your time explaining. The wise will not need your words to understand you. They will recognize your essence without explanation, for they too walk the same path. The fool, on the other hand, will never understand, and no matter how much you speak, he will remain in his darkness. So walk forward in silence. Speak only when it serves you, and do not seek approval where it cannot be given. Let your actions speak louder than your words, for in the end, it is not the loudest voice that shapes the world, but the one that moves through it without the need for validation. Make solitude your ally. The crowd fears silence. The philosopher creates his power within it. You have been taught to fear silence, to fear solitude. The world has painted loneliness as a curse, as a void to be avoided at all costs. The crowd, with its endless noise, its constant clamor, its shallow distractions, sees silence as something unnatural, something to be filled with chatter, with movement, with anything to drown out the quiet. But you, the philosopher, the seeker of truth, you understand that in silence there lies power. In the world's frenzy, the wise find peace. In the chaos of the crowd, the philosopher stands alone, not in despair, but in sovereignty. For in solitude, he is not abandoned. He is not isolated. He is free. Free from the need for validation, free from the suffocating expectations of the herd. In silence, he hears his own voice more clearly than ever before. It is the voice that guides him, that shapes his destiny, that connects him to the deepest parts of himself. You see, the crowd drowns in its noise because it is afraid of what it might find in silence. The noise is a shield, a distraction from the uncomfortable truths that dwell in the stillness. The philosopher, however, embraces it. He welcomes it, for in the silence he becomes clear-eyed, whole, invincible. In the solitude, his thoughts become sharp, his purpose undeniable. The world may scream its judgments, its lies, its superficialities, but in the silence, the philosopher knows what is real, and that is all that matters. To stand alone is not to be weak, it is to be strong beyond measure. The crowd is weak because it needs others to define it, to give it meaning. The solitary soul, the philosopher, defines himself. He is the master of his own thoughts, his own emotions, his own will. He does not need the crowd's approval, the crowd's distractions, the crowd's noise. He stands apart, not in loneliness, but in strength, in clarity, in power. So do not fear the silence. Make it your ally. In its stillness, you will find the truth that the world desperately tries to bury. In solitude, you will find the strength to stand against the world, to see through its illusions, to carve your own path through the chaos. The crowd fears silence because it cannot control it. You, however, will wield it as a weapon, and in that silence, you will create your power. Become a master of observation. People are predictable. You think people are complex. You believe their motives are hidden beneath layers of deceit, wrapped in mystery, cloaked by their words and actions. But let me tell you something. People are predictable. Beneath the surface, their desires, fears, and weaknesses reveal themselves in 1,000 subtle ways. The truth is, you already know them better than they know themselves. The moment you begin to observe, not just to look, but to see, you will realize that the facade they put on is as fragile as glass, and behind it lies a simple, often pitiful truth. The masses, the crowds you so often walk among, believe themselves to be unique, to be individual. They are not. They are creatures of habit, slaves to their emotions, prisoners of their desires. They say one thing but mean another. They act as though they are driven by high ideals, but at their core, they are motivated by self-interest, by fear, by the need for approval. They deceive you only because you allow it. You allow their masks to confuse you. You fail to see them for what they truly are, predictable, fallible, driven by the same primitive instincts that have guided mankind for millennia. The key to true power, to true understanding, is not in trying to unravel the convoluted mess of human behavior. It is in seeing it for what it is, simple, raw, and unchanging. When you master the art of observation, when you learn to truly see beneath the surface, you will stop being surprised. You will stop being deceived. You will no longer fall for their games, their tricks, their illusions. The world may spin in chaos, but you will stand at the center of it, unshaken, because you see the strings that pull everyone, and you know which ones to cut. There is no great mystery in human nature. There are only patterns, desires, fears, things that repeat themselves in every action, in every word. They cannot help it. They cannot escape it. And once you see this, you become invincible. You are no longer a pawn in their game. You are the master, watching from the sidelines, knowing exactly what will happen next. You can predict their moves before they make them, because you see the world through a lens of understanding, not illusion. So learn to observe. Stop listening to what people say and start watching what they do. Pay attention to their gestures, their patterns, their reactions. See beyond the masks they wear, and you will realize that they are no more complex than the beasts they once were. And in that realization, you will find the power to shape your own fate, untroubled by the whims of the crowd. Use emotions against those who create them. If they provoke you, make them react first. Emotion is the weapon of the weak. It is a tool that the masses wield to manipulate and control, to bend others to their will through rage, guilt, or fear. The clever man, the philosopher, knows this. He does not react. He does not allow himself to be swept away in the storm of another's emotional outburst. No, he waits. He watches. He uses their emotional tirades against them. In the world, there will always be those who seek to provoke you, to push you, to test your limits. They want to see you lose control. They want to see your walls crumble. Why? Because in that moment of emotional vulnerability, they hold power over you. They laugh as they watch your rage rise, your frustration take root, your calmness slip away. But you, the master of yourself, do not fall for their games. Instead, you take their provocation and turn it back upon them. When they lash out, you remain still. When they scream, you listen. When they seek to pierce you with their words, you smile, for you know the truth. They are weak. They are the ones who will break. They are the ones who are emotionally unstable, not you. They throw their emotions out like a weapon, but they don't realize that by doing so, they have made themselves vulnerable to your intellect, your observation, your calm. The moment you allow yourself to be provoked is the moment you surrender your power. You give them control over your emotional state, and in that moment they win. But the true master of his emotions knows this. To be emotionally stable is to be invincible. To be unaffected by the noise, the insults, the taunts of others is to stand above them. They may provoke you, but in doing so, they show their weakness, their desperation, their fear. And in that moment, it is they who are vulnerable. Use their emotions against them. Turn their anger into their own undoing. When they lash out, hold your ground. When they seek to provoke you, remain calm. Let them wear themselves out, exhaust themselves with their emotional tirades. They will begin to unravel, their own frustrations becoming their greatest weakness. They will react first, and in that moment, you will have already won. Emotion is the weapon of the unwise, the unsteady, the unthinking. But to wield your emotions with control, to remain calm while others flail about in their own emotional turbulence, is to wield the greatest power. So let them react. Let them burn with anger. As you remain steady, you will become the one who stands unshaken, unbowed. And in that silence, in that stillness, you will know who truly holds the power. Learn to ignore the small things. Great people do not argue over trivialities. The world is filled with noise, petty arguments, fleeting disagreements, insignificant details that demand your attention, that demand your time. The crowd, the masses, they are drawn to these distractions like moths to a flame. They revel in the small, the inconsequential, the trivial. And what do they gain from this? Nothing. Nothing but the draining of their energy, the squandering of their precious time, the decay of their potential. But you, the seeker of greatness, you must learn to rise above this. Greatness is not achieved in the endless struggle over petty things. It is not found in the squabbles of everyday life. in the arguments that serve no purpose other than to fill the void of empty minds. The truly great, the philosophers, the masters of their own will, they do not waste their time on such trivial matters. They see the bigger picture. They understand that in the grand scheme of things, the small, the insignificant, the fleeting, these things do not matter. When the crowd bickers over the inconsequential, when the small minds get caught up in trivial disputes, the great man remains still. He does not waste his energy on things that do not contribute to his purpose, to his vision. He does not allow himself to be dragged down by the noise of the world. His mind is focused, his actions deliberate, his energy directed toward what truly matters. To argue over the small things is to lose sight of what is truly important. It is to become like the masses, trapped in the web of distractions, forever moving in circles, never reaching higher. But the truly great do not argue over trivialities. They rise above them. They see beyond the petty squabbles and focus their energy on what will shape the world, what will leave a lasting mark, what will change the course of history. So learn to ignore the small things. Do not allow yourself to be drawn into the meaningless chatter of the crowd. Keep your focus sharp. Keep your mind clear. Only by doing so will you free yourself from the constraints of the trivial and begin to walk the path of greatness. The world is full of distractions. Do not let them steal your power, your time, your purpose. Stay true to your vision and rise above the noise. Play your own game. Let others live by the rules they were given. You create your own. The world will always try to impose its rules upon you. It will tell you how to think, how to act, how to feel. It will lay out a path that everyone is expected to walk, a narrow road where the masses shuffle along like sheep, head down, eyes glazed, minds imprisoned by the very structure that was created to control them. They will beg you to follow, to comply, to conform. They will tell you that this is how things are, and this is how they must always be. But you, the master of your own fate, must ask yourself, why must I play their game? Why must I follow their rules? You are not a puppet to be controlled. You are not a cog in someone else's machine. You are not bound by the expectations and limitations of those who live in fear, those who have accepted their place in the world without question. You have the power to create your own rules. You have the strength to break free from the mold and forge a path that is entirely your own. The moment you stop playing by the rules of others, the moment you stop seeking validation from the outside world, you'll begin to understand the true meaning of freedom. The masses are slaves to the games that are forced upon them. They fight for scraps, they compete for approval, they struggle for fleeting moments of success, all while shackled by invisible chains. They are told what success looks like, they are told how to measure their worth, and they follow it blindly. But you, the creator of your own destiny, understand that success is not defined by the standards set by others. It is not a prize to be won in their competitions. Success is what you make of it. It is a product of your own imagination, your own rules, your own desires. When you create your own game, you step outside the limitations of the world. You are no longer subject to the forces that seek to control you. You are the architect of your own reality, the writer of your own story. And when you play your own game, you cannot lose. There are no external forces that can defeat you, no rules that can limit you. The world may try to impose its path upon you, but you have the power to step off it and carve your own way. Do not let the world dictate your life. Do not let the masses decide what is possible for you. You are a creator, a visionary, a force that cannot be contained. You are not bound by the rules of others, because you're the one who sets the rules. Let them follow their path. Let them obey their commands. But you create your own game, and in it, you are the master. The moment you understand this, the moment you take control of your life, you will become untouchable, unstoppable, and invincible. As you walk this path, remember that you are the creator of your own reality. Do not be swayed by the chaos, the opinions, or the rules that others impose on you. You are not here to play by their game. You are here to create your own. So rise above the noise, embrace your power, and let nothing hold you back. The world will try to shake you, but if you stand firm in your own truth, you will not be moved. Take this wisdom, make it yours, and go forth into the world unapologetically. The world needs those who dare to live on their own terms. Be that person. Stay strong, stay true, and remember, you are the architect of your destiny.